Hello and welcome to this edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Paul Werlin.
And I'm Brenda Mahoney, in for Michelle Marino. At Arlington Public News, we bring you stories of interest to Arlington and surrounding communities. In tonight's newscast, a look at Arlington's new approach to combat drug addiction. Changes in parking are underway in the town center, and we introduce a new series on body image. Plus, beekeepers at Robbins Library will explain.
That and more coming up next. Please stay with us.
Opiate-related deaths are on the rise in Massachusetts, and Arlington is not immune. According to the State Department of Health and Human Services, deaths are up 15% for 2014 across the state to 1,256 people. Arlington police and health officials have come up with a multi-pronged approach to combat heroin prescription painkiller use. The Arlington Outreach Initiative involves going door to door of known drug users offering help, having police carry the potentially life-saving Narcan, and offers up a support group for users and family members, the next meeting of which is scheduled for August 18th. News intern Eve Liu has more.
I'm here at the Arlington Police Department. In response to this opiate epidemic nationwide, the Arlington Police Department has been teaming up with other organizations to address this issue. Could you please tell us a little bit about the Arlington Acts program?
Yes, Arlington Acts is our initiative to help prevent more deaths from opiate overdoses. We're starting on August 4th, and we're going to be meeting in the community. Everybody's welcome. We're starting with Narcan distribution. We're going to be giving people Narcan who feel like they have a need for it because they have a loved one, friend, or neighbor who's abusing substances.
So what role does the AIDS Action Committee Needle Exchange play?
So the Needle Exchange is a prevention department within AIDS Action Committee. So basically we're working from a harm reduction philosophy to have really honest conversations with the people that come in our doors and create a really non-judgmental atmosphere. We're working to prevent transmission of infections, including HIV, hepatitis C, and also to prevent fatal overdose. So we do a lot of education amongst people who are actively using drugs to help them stay as safe as possible while engaging in a potentially dangerous behavior.
Okay. And how are you going to team up with the Arlington Police Department to help them out?
Basically, we're working to create a space for community members to come in and access resources, and also to connect with other people in the community that are facing similar issues.
And how do you think a supportive group like this would help?
I think that a lot of stigma is out there in the community. It's really hard for people to be honest about what's going on. And when people kind of create these spaces where people are encouraged to be honest and open about what's going on, people really need that and appreciate that and gravitate towards it. And I think ultimately it will help create networks for people to get the care and help that they need.
I think people will have like a resource and a intake kind of place where they can come and get information, and if they need treatment, we can help them figure out how to get it and where to go. We're working with Wicked Sober's Mike Duggan, and he helps people by finding them beds places, even though sometimes they're very difficult to find. He can do it.
And what do you think those people who are using substances need most?
I think they need a non-judgmental atmosphere where they can be real about what's going on. You know, when people have to be secretive, that creates grounds for really dangerous things to happen. And, you know, most importantly, we want to prevent fatal overdose as much as we can and keep our communities as healthy as possible.
What are the strategies for dealing with opiate abuse?
That's a really hard question, and I don't know. If I knew that, there wouldn't be any opiate abuse. So we're just we're trying community-based, we're trying a harm reduction way to do it, which would be kind of meeting people where they're at. So we're not telling people we're not going to work with you if you're using substances. What we're saying is be smart if you're going to use substances, and when you're ready for treatment, we're here to help you.
On behalf of Arlington Police Department for Arlington Public News, I'm Eve Liu.
Town officials have organized a meeting to discuss the proposed affordable housing project on the Mugar property between the Thorndike Field neighborhood and Route 2. Selectmen, the town manager's office, and the state delegation are uniformly against the 7-acre project due to flooding and traffic concerns. They are asking for input from the community before filing their official opposition. Oak Tree Development will present their plans for the housing units, followed by comments from the selectmen and public questions. The meeting is at 7:00 p.m. in the Town Hall Auditorium on Wednesday, August 12th. It will be carried live on ACMi's government channel.
Parking is often a challenge in Arlington Center, and town officials think they have a solution. Meters will be put in along Massachusetts Avenue, and the off-street paid lots will switch to no time limits. Town officials tell APN they believe this will encourage more spot turnover along Mass Ave and will help those conducting business with long-term parking at the municipal parking lots.
Hello, I'm James Milan, and I'm here today with Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine and Steve Byrne from our Board of Selectmen, who have just finished a meeting with the Parking Implementation and Governance Committee, and we're here to talk about the changes coming to Mass Ave and Arlington Center related to the metered parking. What are the problems that we're trying to solve in introducing metered parking into Arlington Center?
I think there's quite a few, I don't want to call them problems, but I think some areas we can become a bit more efficient. I think that as it currently stands, where you have to pay to park in our lots, but you can park on our streets for free, it's really flipped, and it's just doesn't create the turnover that we want on our on-street parking, and it really, I think, makes it so we're not utilizing our more off-street lots, and we're hoping that these changes will be a step in the right direction to fixing that.
The only additional piece would be we don't really have a long-term parking solution for employees or someone who wants to stay the day in Arlington Center or work the day in Arlington Center. So by shifting the lots to unlimited time as opposed to the current 3-hour limit, we'd be providing long-term parking opportunities as well.
How will you measure success? A year out, 2 years out, 5 years out? How will you know this has been a successful transition?
The whole basis for doing this is to make parking available in Arlington Center so that businesses can thrive and residents and even non-residents can come in and patronize those businesses. So once we hit on what that percentage is, maybe it's 10% availability, 15% availability, whatever it is, we're going to measure that through the work of this committee, maybe the work of TAC, some combination of those things. That's going to be the primary one. And if we're not achieving that availability, then we might make some recommendations to change pricing or to change our strategy.
And I think we can expect revenue to be generated from this, and being that it's going to become a parking benefits district, we're going to try to invest wisely back into the center to make it even, a more commuter, business, pedestrian-friendly place, and really try to get to thrive even more so than it already is.
Change is hard. We all know that, and this is going to be a change. It'll be a change for businesses, it'll be a change for residents, and for people out of town coming in, again, to patronize the businesses. But I think we've done our homework, and our goal is to increase availability of parking so that the business center can thrive, and also to be able to reinvest revenues into the center. So I think we have very appropriate and very fact-based reasoning behind this, and I'm going to ask for patience and cooperation as we roll out these changes.
We'll appreciate your feedback. Please, if something's working in your opinion, let us know. If something's not working, please let us know. And that's what I think this committee's here for, is to address that feedback and get to the right resolution.
So for Arlington Public News, for Adam Chapdelaine and for Stephen Byrne, I'm James Milan, and thanks for joining us.
Paul, the new parking plan also calls for meters along Webster Street and Broadway and Franklin Street, and the exact timeline for the implementation is still being worked out.
Yes, and I understand that the municipal lots, the kiosks in the lots, will all be solar powered.
That's
which is
right.
Really kind of interesting and cool. Recently, the MBTA has dealt with many issues due to increased ridership and this year's particularly harsh winter. These events have brought about many discussions on how to improve the reliability and capacity of the state's public transportation. APN intern Carolyn Sullivan spoke with Leonard Diggins of the MBTA Rider Oversight Committee to discuss the challenges and possible solutions.
Welcome, I'm Caroline Sullivan here with Len Diggins, member of the Riders Oversight Committee and co-chair of the Capital Investment and Finance Committee. What is the role of the Rider Oversight Committee?
Well, the Rider Oversight Committee is composed of public members. We are a 15-member committee, and even though we aren't elected by the public, we try to be a good sample of the public that uses the T.
So I know part of the new plan is to cut down the budget as well as some service cuts in addition to raising the fare. Do you know when that new fare hike will go into effect?
We had requested that the legislature retain the code that said that they would limit fare increases to 5% every 2 years. That came out of the 2013 legislation. So if it seems like that is going to be the case, we haven't seen the transportation bill yet, but it seems like people are leaning towards maintaining that. So at that point, the next fare increase would be next year, and it would be a maximum of 5%.
With the ridership increasing by 50%, like in the past 15 years or so, how is the MBTA adapting?
That's a good question, because we are expecting an increase in ridership, and I think probably at least 10% over the next decade, and there are some limits right now on the system. For instance, the Red Line trains are running as quickly as they can during rush hour. It seems like the only way we're really going to be able to increase capacity is to increase the bus network, and to get the buses to run more effectively. We'll have to figure out some way to get the cars off the roads, at least during rush hour, so that the buses can run more effectively. But these are things that people are looking at, and those are all things that will be considered in the capital investment plan.
Any specific changes we can expect to see in 2015?
Reallocated resources, to help us prepare for the winter better. I would say, if we got 3 to 4 feet of snow, in 3 weeks, we will probably handle that better, than we did last year. Under extreme circumstances, there's only so much you can do, but hopefully with less extreme circumstances, it will run a little more smoothly.
Yeah. You guys are looking for new members on your committee?
Yes, we are. So we are taking applications until September 15th, and so they can go to the Rider Oversight Committee's website. It's www.mbtaroc.com, and check for the questions there. And there's an email address you can send your answers to the questions and any other information you want. And also the MBTA is doing a survey where they are trying to determine how people use the system and what kind of improvements people like to see done to the system, and that survey, the link to that survey is also on our website.
All right, thank you so much for being with us today, and on behalf of Arlington Public News, I'm Caroline Sullivan. Thank you for watching.
Tonight, we introduce a 3-part series exploring the effects of the media and culture on adolescents' personal body image. APN producer Gayatri Sundarajan has more.
Hello and welcome. My name is Maya Sears. We'll be talking about body image and the negative perception many teenage girls have of their appearance and selves.
My name is Clara Stewart. I'm a student at Arlington High School, and I play ultimate frisbee. I used to do gymnastics.
My name is Olivia Weiss. I'm 15 years old. I attend Arlington High School. I'm a former ballerina dancer. I currently play lacrosse.
How has body image affected you?
Well, it affects me every day because, like a lot of other teenage girls, because you just sort of wake up and have to look in the mirror and have to look your best. I feel sort of pressured to look good some of the time. A lot of the clothes that I think that I look best in aren't really comfortable, so then it's sort of a struggle between being comfortable and looking good.
For 10 years, starting when I was 5 years old, I have been a very serious dancer. I did ballet, I did the works, everything, and the environment that I was in and the mindset that I had really influenced me of the whole dance world and how you're expected to look and how people want you to look and how you're being kind of constantly corrected for how you're holding yourself, and it kind of took a very negative effect, and I became really unhealthy really fast.
I think the media has a huge impact in America on female students in such a way that I think it just permeates.
Who do you feel pressured by?
My peers, like everybody around me, and then like you see everything on like social media and TV and things saying like, oh, is your bikini body ready? So it's just sort of society in general.
From how to dress, how to act, how to talk is all sort of being set by things you see on TV, on the internet, hear it on the radio, different TV shows. It's just all around us, and it's hard to just pick one because it's just a cloud of things.
I think media's perception of beauty is very narrow. So there's a certain set of factors that make you beautiful in the eyes of the media or society. And so I think that can be really dangerous when you have young girls looking at that and then seeing this very narrow perception of what beautiful is and what they should look like.
I hate to say it, but it's tall, skinny, athletic. It's white or light.
A few months ago, actually, one day I woke up and I said, you know what? I'm just gonna really love myself today. So I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, sometimes it's really helpful to just try your hardest to have a mindset of ignoring what everybody else is saying about your body and just say, you know what, I'm healthy.
I think one of the things I've learned is kind of to focus on the bigger picture and not nitpick every small thing that I think is wrong with myself. To take care of myself, I'm the number one priority in my life, and I shouldn't be kind of putting other things before myself.
This is Maya Sears reporting for Arlington Public News.
Arlington resident Brianna Wu is one of the better-known female game developers. Brianna believes there is a negative depiction of women in video games and a sexist culture within the Gamergate online community. At an Arlington education series, Wu spoke about the importance of women in the video game industry and her vision for nonviolent game development.
This series began 5 years ago in May 2010 when Donna Edson, as Director of Arlington Community Education, approached me with the idea of hosting a series of public conversations with fascinating people who happen to be our neighbors. I didn't discover that tonight's guest, Brianna Wu, lived in Arlington until I started researching her for a story I wrote in Inc. magazine this spring about her role as a victim in the ugly online uprising that came to be known by its Twitter hashtag Gamergate. Because she had the gall to speak out against sexism in the gaming industry, Brianna was subjected to an onslaught of terrifying and anonymous threats of rape, mutilation, and death.
The game industry is really at an inflection point. So in 1989, they did a study, and women were 3% of gamers. In 2008, they did a study, and women were 17% of gamers. As of today, depending on which study you look at, women are either 46 or 52% of gamers. So the culture of video games is really at a point where there's this growing tension between the people that kind of feel like they own video games and the people that are actually playing it. I think that we've had the market meeting one consumer's needs for so long, we haven't really thought about the rest of us. Gamergate has really made me start thinking about how can you capture those elements of dialogue, talking to people, having story, but maybe it's time to take that shooter part out. There are all kinds of ways you can create dramatic tension without trying to kill enemies. The fact is games do lower your empathy. They lower your growth of empathy towards other things. They can also slow your social development. The reason that first-person shooters, just on a really biological level, are so popular is it's very good at hitting your dopamine. You do something, you get rewarded. It's this reward treadmill. If we want to triumph nonviolent game mechanics, ultimately we've got to figure out something that has that same reward system that the market will appreciate. I advocate nonviolent gameplay constantly. I feel at a career inflection point. I'm glad I stood up for Gamergate. I'm glad I drew this line in the sand, and I did make it better for women in this field. If I died tomorrow, I would be very proud that when my time came, I stood up for what I believed in. There are a lot of women that find themselves so disrespected to the point that they quit. What worries me overall is I don't talk to women that want to start companies. I see a lot of women that care about this, but they kind of want to opt out. To me, one of the biggest ethical problems that game journalists have are their hiring practices towards women. But I'm also at a point where if I don't inflect with my career, I'm not going to get back to engineering, which is what I love. The reason I love video games is what I do is art. It's engineering and art. You know, I tell stories and I build scenes and I write scenes and I add music and I get that emotion.
Susan Eckstein, professor of international relations and sociology at Boston University, talked with Arlington Public News about the influence of the Cuban American community in the United States. She explained what impact changing U.S. relations with Cuba may have on the 2016 presidential elections. The Skype interview you're about to view was recorded in April prior to the reopening of the U.S. Embassy in Cuba in July.
President Obama continued his effort to normalize U.S. relationship with Cuba. After meeting with President Castro early April during the Americas Summit, he recently removed Cuba from the list of states that sponsor terrorism. Susan Eckstein, Boston University professor of sociology and international relations, agreed to talk with us about impact of the president's decision in the United States and abroad. So what's your opinion on the normalization of U.S. relations with Cuba?
I am delighted. It's long overdue. As President Obama said, a policy that doesn't work for 50 years doesn't work. And it certainly has not achieved the goals that the U.S. government had wanted. And it's hurt Cuba, but not to the extent that the U.S. wanted, because they had hoped if strangling the country economically, it would lead to the collapse of the regime. But as we know, the regime is alive and well, even if it could be a lot better in terms of economic conditions.
So President Obama and President Castro recently met early April during the Americas Summit. So how was this meeting perceived by the Cuban?
I think Cubans are just anxiously watching. They really do hope that relations improve. For many years, they were told all their hardships were due to the embargo. So the embargo is not going, but any step in the direction of normalizing relations, I think Cubans feel is a good trend.
Based on your research, how have Cuban Americans changed the United States?
Cuban Americans have been very influential. They've completely transformed Miami, which used to be a small city where snowbirds went for vacation. And they made it, they really oversaw Miami becoming a large city and a Hispanic city. And the Cubans were really the ones who did that. They changed the culture, they made it a bilingual city, and also in terms of building bridges across the hemisphere economically.
Marco Rubio, who's the son of a Cuban immigrant, announced that he will run for the presidential election.
I think Rubio will get a high percentage of the Cuban American vote because they vote, for their own. And also, many of the Cuban Americans are Republicans, about roughly 2/3. The Cuban Americans have overwhelmingly voted Republican. They're very different in their politics than the other Hispanics.
What role may Cuba play in the next presidential election?
The real question will be whether Congress votes to end the embargo. And Obama's not pushing for that now, because maybe he thinks if he supports ending the embargo, Congress is going to vote to maintain it, since they do whatever he doesn't want. But it also may be more strategic that he thinks other changes should happen first, and then it will, it's inevitable that the U.S. will get rid of the embargo at some point. But, it takes Congress to do it. It's a congressional law, so Congress has to end it as well.
I want to thank Professor Eckstein for her valuable insight on the ongoing process of normalizing U.S. relations with Cuba. For Arlington Public News, this is Yawa Digboe.
Best Bees is a company that provides beekeeping services while also researching bee health. Arlington's Robbins Library is currently a local client of Best Bees and is housing honeybees on their grounds. Producer Gayatri Sundarajan talked with two beekeeping workers who explain their interest in beekeeping and the process of taking care of beehives.
Hello and welcome. My name is Gayatri Sundarajan and I'm here with Sophie and Jesse with Best Bees. So can you tell us how you got started with bees?
Well, I actually started through a program through Northeastern University where I am attending currently. They have a co-op program. You take a semester off, you find a company that you're interested in. I'm studying bio and was interested in bees. And then you apply and you work there full time just like any other job. And then I loved it and I loved the people there, so I stayed on and hope to continue doing it for a long time.
I sort of just stumbled upon this job. They were hiring when I was looking for a job, and I thought it sounded cool. I didn't have any experience with bees, so I've learned everything I know as I've gone along. It's been about 2 years now, and it's been the right fit for a job for me. You get to do something a little different every day. You don't sit in an office, and it's a good way to stay connected with nature, just interacting with bees all the time.
And so what do you guys do on a day-to-day basis?
Well, we construct all of the boxes at our lab. So all the material that you saw during our check, the frames, the foundation, we put that all together and assemble it. We also harvest the honey at our lab. So we have a little kitchen with harvesters. All of our honey stays separate. So that's a job in itself, just keeping track of everyone's honey.
And so what do you guys do at the Robbins Library?
So the Robbins Library is one of our clients. We have all sorts of clients, private, corporate, and they're just kind of a unique example of one of our clients. I think it's the only library we have beehives at. We come by about once a month and we just check both the hives and make sure everything's okay. And we bring whatever equipment we need. And then when it's time, we'll harvest honey. We took 2 frames today, and then we'll return it to the library.
So where can people go for more information about Best Bees?
Our website is bestbees.com, www.bestbees.com, or you can send an email if you're interested in getting your own hive. We deliver, we manage, we install the bees for you, so it's full service, and you can send an email to info@bestbees.com.
For Arlington Public News, this is Gayatri Sundarajan on behalf of Sophie and Jesse from Best Bees.
Robbins Farm Park recently saw the return of one of Arlington's favorite summertime events, Shakespeare in the Park. Arlington Center for the Arts organized a performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream on July 19th, where people gathered to enjoy the timeless work of Shakespeare.
Farewell, sweet playfellow. Pray thou for us. And good luck, grant thee thy Demetrius.
Sunday, July 19th, saw the return of one of Arlington's favorite summertime events, Shakespeare in the Park. Robbins Farm Park was the site for this performance of A Midsummer Night's Dream.
So this is Shakespeare in the Park. This is I think the 15th annual Shakespeare in the Park for Arlington.
How big of the audience do we have for this year's event?
I would say 400, maybe a little more, a little less, but they really filled up the whole hillside here at Robbins Farm Park, and it was really beautiful to see all those people here.
What makes Shakespeare in the Park so special and so popular in Arlington?
I think people in Arlington really love Shakespeare in the Park and are really proud that we have Shakespeare in the Park here in town. You know, you can go into Boston and see Shakespeare on the Common, and that's a wonderful thing too. But we are the only town in the greater Boston area that regularly every year has our own Shakespeare in the Park. And I think people are really proud that that's true about Arlington.
The king doth keep his revels here tonight.
We also got a chance to speak to various actors and actresses about their participation in this first of 2 Shakespeare in the Park events for summer 2015.
This was a really great performance for us. We'd never gotten to perform outside, so it was really nice to be out in the open air, and we had a great audience, really responsive and fun, and we had people of all ages, families and everything, so it was really great to have such a diverse audience and be able to play to everyone.
It's beautiful here. The farm is gorgeous, and we've got the best view of Boston. I don't think there's another view like it in the entire greater Boston area. So
it's a joy to get to perform for an audience that is with their family and has sort of, elected to come out on a Sunday and watch Shakespeare. I think that that's really exciting.
For APN News, I'm Yi Gu Liang.
Robbins Farm Park really does a good job of hosting some of these events. I mean, it's one of my favorite places to go in the summer. There's always something going on there.
That's right. Beautiful views of the city as well. All right, well, thank you for joining us this week to discuss local events and issues around Arlington. Check out our latest segments on the web at news.acmi.tv.
Please join us next time for another edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Paul Werlin.
And I'm Brenda Mahoney. See you next time.